You may have gone far, chasing wealth, learning every strategy, pursuing every goal. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, am I living in alignment with who I truly am? This video won't teach you how to get rich fast. It's a reminder to return back to the only place where true prosperity begins. Not out there, but right here within you. The problem is not effort. It is awareness. You are not poor because you are lazy. You are not stuck because you lack ability. And you are certainly not short on money just because you have not worked hard enough. The biggest trap of our time is not in financial failure out there, but in the deep belief that you must struggle to the point of exhaustion before you are allowed to receive abundance. No one told you that your entire life is being shaped not by your actions, but by your awareness. Every decision you make, every habit you repeat, every opportunity you gain or lose, all come from a place you cannot see with your eyes. That place is the vibration you carry with you every day, and that vibration is not determined by circumstances, but by how you think about yourself, your worth, the flow of life, and the nature of prosperity. We were taught wrong. From a very young age, you heard things like, you have to work hard to eat, money does not grow on trees, or those who are too rich must be hiding something. These seemingly harmless phrases were the first lines of code installed into your subconscious, all sending a single signal that abundance is rare, difficult, and not meant for everyone. No one told you that money does not come from mere effort. It comes from internal alignment. Money is an effect, not a goal, and like any effect, it requires a matching cause. If the cause within you is fear, a sense of lack, or constant anxiety when looking at your bank account, then no matter what you do, the end result will still be scarcity. You could work 14 hours a day, but if you act from a hidden belief that you are always lacking, you are programming your life to maintain that reality. You could read dozens of financial books, write down every strategy, try every investment model, but if deep inside you still send out signals of doubt, shame, or guilt when thinking about wealth, then no system can save you from your own loop. You cannot attract abundance from a self that emits the opposite frequency. The universe does not respond to wishes. It responds to resonance. You do not receive what you want. You receive what you are. And what you are is defined by your level of awareness in each moment. Everything you are experiencing is just the tip of an iceberg of consciousness. The frustration every time you lose money, the jealousy when others succeed, the invisible fear when someone mentions earning more, all are symptoms of old beliefs silently running your life. And the most dangerous part is that you do not even know they are running. You think you are in control, when in fact you are reacting based on an unconscious operating system. Awareness is not simply knowledge. It is the ability to observe so deeply that you can see what is actually controlling you. It is when you stop chasing results and begin looking at the source behind them. If you are brave enough to pause and look closely, you will see that you are not really living, you are reacting. Reacting to fear, to your parents' programming, to collective beliefs, to the thirst for control, and to the idea that if you do not do more, you will be left behind. But no one is truly left behind. You are simply disconnected. You do not need to do more. You need to reconnect with the truth that you were never lacking. Everything you need to prosper is already within you, but you have never learned how to turn inward. You learned how to compete, how to sacrifice, how to endure, but you were never taught how to align with life. Once you understand this, the whole game changes. You stop asking what you need to do to earn more, and start asking, what frequency am I sending out right now? You stop trying to achieve prosperity and begin living as if you are already the place where prosperity belongs. Change does not come from finding a new opportunity. It comes from no longer believing in the old ones. A new self cannot rise from an outdated belief. To be reborn, you must be willing to let go, not just of external behaviors, but of your deepest ideas about value effort, worthiness, and truth. Prosperity is not a destination. It is the effect of a self that has restored its inner order. When you truly understand this, you no longer have to chase money. Money will come to you because it recognizes that you have become a place it wants to rest. The hidden secret is this: money is an energy code. Not everyone is poor because they do not know how to make money, and not all wealthy people succeed because of skill, luck, or strategy. There is a truth that has been hidden for a long time. Money does not come from the cleverness of the mind, but from the harmony of energy. Look around you. There are people who are not more talented, not more hardworking, not more intelligent, yet they attract money naturally and consistently. That is not a coincidence. It is the result of an inner state that is aligned with the energy code of money. And you too can do this if you are willing to look deeper into the true nature of wealth. Money is not paper, nor is it a number. Those are just external forms. The essence of money is a stream of organized vibration, like a radio frequency. It does not respond to your emotions. It responds to the law of resonance. Money flows to those who understand the frequency it operates on. And that is where most people fall out of the game. While they are pouring effort into figuring out how to make more money, those who are truly prosperous are fine-tuning their presence to become a natural receiver for money to flow through. You do not need more strategy. You need a new kind of understanding, an understanding of the energy of money. It is a silent language, yet incredibly clear. And if you do not learn this language, money will always avoid you no matter how hard you try. Think of it like an encrypted door. You cannot force it open. You need to know the right code for it to unlock. And that code is not found in your paycheck, not in your savings, and not in your performance. It lies in the energy field you emit every single day. Have you noticed how some people always say that money is hard to earn, that wealth is a privilege for the few, that being a good person means you cannot be rich? These people repeat one frequency, day after day, month after month, the frequency of scarcity, of doubt, of limitation, and the world responds exactly to what they project. There is no injustice here. There is a perfect order unfolding, only you have not seen it yet. Every thought, every belief, every emotion you hold about money is forming the energy code that the universe mirrors back to you. If you truly want to change your financial reality, do not start by asking what to do to earn more. Start with a deeper question. What signal am I sending out about money? That is the real starting point of every transformation. And I want to ask you now, a question not just for your mind, but for your entire being listening to this message. If money were a living presence, able to feel and perceive you, would it want to stay near you? Be honest with yourself. There is no need to answer quickly. Just pause for a moment and feel what your current state is transmitting. Is it peace or anxiety? Openness or resistance? Gratitude or doubt? We often think we have a problem with money, but in truth, money has no problem with you. It is simply waiting for you to understand its true nature. When you meet money as a stream of energy, you no longer see it as something to chase or fight for. You begin to see that money is always here, flowing and neutral. It does not judge. It does not choose good or bad people. It flows toward whatever matches its state. Just like water flows to the lowest ground, money flows to where there is no inner resistance. And that resistance does not come from the outside. It comes from within. It is in the words you often say, like, I cannot, I do not have, I am not enough. Each of these words is a signal you send, telling money that you are not yet ready. So how do you decode this? How do you restore the original frequency that money can recognize and move toward? You do not need to chase it. You need to return and adjust the root. And that root is awareness. It is how you perceive yourself in relationship to value, to giving and receiving, to circulation and sufficiency. When you enter the inner state of wholeness, you no longer work to prove. You no longer earn to fill a void. You no longer live with a sense of lack. You become a space where energy can move freely. And in that moment, money is no longer something you need to possess. It becomes a flow you allow to move through you. Thank you for being here, listening to what not everyone is ready to hear. Because it is not easy to accept that the cause lies within. But only when you accept this can you truly reclaim your power to create your financial reality. If something within you has just been touched, if a shadow within has just been illuminated, hold on to that state. It is not a fleeting emotion. It is the beginning signal of a shift in vibration. And real transformation will come the moment you realize that you no longer need to chase money. You only need to become the kind of person money wants to be with. How ordinary people transformed their financial lives. They did not need a special background. They did not need extraordinary intelligence. Nor did they wait for a rare opportunity. The only thing they had was a shift in how they thought about money. They did not begin by earning more. They began by looking inward at their own internal state. It was there, in that space, that quiet transformation took place and gradually gave rise to a completely new financial reality. Maria was a single mother who spent most of her time taking care of her child and working a repetitive office job like a machine. Her life was a string of sacrifices, saving every penny, skipping breakfast just to provide a full lunch for her child. But despite all her efforts, she was always lacking. No one told her that it was not her income, but her perception of self-worth and her role in the flow of money that was the true barrier keeping her trapped in the cycle. When she began applying a simple principle, never make money decisions from a place of fear, everything started to shift. She did not work more hours. She did not change careers. She did not jump jobs. But she began to say no to the guilt of spending on herself. She paused before repeating the old phrase, "I am not enough." And she faced the truth that she had always seen money as something that came from others, not from the value she carried within. 6 months later, no one could recognize the woman who once had to scrape together every dollar. She was promoted to a new position because, for the first time in her life, she dared to propose something she once believed was too much. She started receiving invitations for collaborations beyond her day job. And most importantly, she no longer repeated the same financial anxiety at the end of each month. What changed was not her income. It was the identity she chose to live from. Carlos was a man passionate about business, who had failed 3 times in a row. After each failure, he worked harder, stayed up later, read more books, joined more seminars, and invested in new strategies. But the harder he tried, the more he felt like he was swimming against an invisible current. He began to question whether it was really the strategy that was wrong, or something within him that remained unresolved. That was when he found a simple yet powerful idea. If you act from an identity that has not been upgraded, all effort is just a more polished version of repetition. He stopped adjusting the strategy and started adjusting the person behind the action. He realized he was still carrying in his mind the image of a man who fails but keeps trying, a role he had unconsciously played since childhood. When he released that attachment, the current shifted. His next project was not more creative, but it was carried out by a completely different person. No more forcing to prove himself. No more decisions born from fear. No more actions driven by lack. Revenue increased not because he worked harder, but because every action now came from a higher frequency. That was not magic. It was the mathematics of energy. Anna was a woman who had always lived a stable life. Not poor, but never truly feeling rich. Her income was enough for a simple life. But inside, a quiet voice kept repeating that if she had more, she would become a worse person. She believed that staying moral meant not allowing herself to have too much. That belief did not come from logic, but from childhood impressions, where she saw rich people being criticized, where she heard stories tying prosperity to injustice. She lived as if being wealthy was a disguised form of wrongdoing under the label of virtue. Until one day, she stopped and admitted that this belief was what kept her trapped in her outdated comfort zone. When she allowed herself to release the image that rich people are bad, when she separated material value from personal dignity, she began to live differently. No more proving, no more seeking permission. She upgraded her presence with one simple decision: not to deny the value she already carried. From then on, her income increased not because she did anything new, but because she no longer blocked the flow. She allowed herself to receive, and the world responded with respect. These stories are not exceptions. They are proof that anyone can completely change their financial reality if they are willing to change their inner structure. Every external action starts from an invisible pattern in the mind. Every result you receive is the reflection of the identity you are operating from. There is no need to search for new formulas, no need to chase success. You only need to ask where your actions are coming from. Are they from the identity of someone lacking or someone who already has enough? When you act from wholeness, every strategy works. When you act from fear, every strategy becomes a cycle of struggle. True change does not require doing more. It requires becoming someone different from within, and that different person is not a stranger. It is your true self, the one that has always been there, just hidden beneath outdated definitions of value and money. Money comes from vibrational alignment, not from struggle. Every person emits an invisible wave, not seen by the eye, not measured by conventional tools, yet it precisely determines what you attract into your life. That wave does not come from your words or your willpower. It comes from the vibrational state deep within your mind. And money does not flow to the place with the most effort. It flows to where there is the deepest alignment between thoughts, emotions, and identity. People often believe they must struggle, strive, fight, and sacrifice in order to have money. But what if the truth is the exact opposite? What if it is your belief in the struggle that is the very thing keeping money out of reach? When you feel you have to try hard to have something, you are telling your subconscious that you are not yet ready to have it. When you feel tension every time you think about money, you are broadcasting resistance into your living space. And when you fear losing money, you are already creating a future where loss is affirmed. It is not about events. It is about the frequency you are living in. Vibration is the foundation. Reality is just the projection. Every circumstance is here to reveal the vibrational state operating within you. If you are living in the vibration of lack, you will constantly encounter situations that confirm scarcity. You will meet people who cause you to spend unexpectedly. You will face delays at work. You will feel that everything is too expensive, too difficult, too far out of reach, not because the world is against you, but because the world is honestly mirroring you. Just as a mirror cannot reflect anything other than what is standing in front of it, reality cannot create anything other than what you are sending out from within yourself. When you understand this, you will stop chasing money. You begin to turn inward and ask whether you truly allow yourself to live in abundance. Abundance does not begin with the number in your account. It begins with a sense of unconditional peace with the flow of life. When you are no longer controlled by fear, when you no longer feel the need to prove anything, when you live without forcing, you begin to enter the vibrational zone where money can move toward you, not through force, not through manipulation, not through begging, but as a natural consequence. Just like water only flows to low ground, the energy of money flows to where there is capacity to receive. You cannot receive if you have not released fear, unworthiness, and inner chaos each time money is mentioned. Those who attract prosperity do not do so because they pray more or are luckier, but because they emit a clear signal that says, "I am enough, I am open, I do not resist." That absence of resistance is the bridge through which the flow of money enters reality in a natural and sustainable way. Imagine a person standing in the rain holding an umbrella. No matter how thirsty he is, he will not receive a single drop. To change, you do not need more rain. You need to close the umbrella. And the umbrella in each person's consciousness is made of faulty programming, outdated beliefs, and unresolved emotions around money. That is why when you learn to relax, when you stop trying to control, when you accept all emotions without judgment, you are slowly closing that invisible umbrella. And when it is closed enough, the rain will fall into your hands without force, without chasing, without competition. Money does not need you to chase it. It only needs you to become clear and consistent. Clear in thought, without contradiction between wanting money and fearing having too much. Consistent in action, not speaking of abundance while acting from scarcity. Honest in emotion, not pretending to be strong when inside there is insecurity. Each time you become that transparent, money will no longer be something outside of you. It will become something that moves with you, reflects you, and walks beside you like an old friend. From the day you understand that money is a reflection, not a reward, you will stop asking the universe for more money and start aligning with yourself. You will no longer say, "I need more money." You will begin to ask, "What vibration must I release so I no longer resist money?" That is the question that leads to true freedom. Not the financial freedom that numbers bring, but the inner freedom that comes from knowing you can shape reality by adjusting your own being. Every outer journey begins with an inner choice. And when you choose alignment over struggle, you step out of the old game, where money only comes to those who fight hardest, and into a world where money comes as a natural outcome of stillness and clarity. That world is not far away. It begins within you. In the moment you stop trying to control the flow and instead begin to harmonize with it through quiet presence and deep trust, the game has been reversed. You must become prosperous before you take action. People often believe they will feel abundant after they achieve something, that once they have more money, life will feel less pressured, that once they succeed, fear will disappear. But the truth is exactly the opposite. You cannot wait to have before you become, because the state you are living in today is what creates your tomorrow. If you are acting from a mindset of lack, you will only recreate circumstances that reinforce that lack. If you are sending out the signal of insecurity, you will only attract situations that make you feel more unsafe. And if you are not truly prosperous in consciousness, then no matter what you do on the outside, the results will not be different. This is the reversed game. You cannot act like a poor person and expect wealth to come. You cannot make decisions from fear and expect a miracle to unfold. Every choice, every behavior, every step you take is a physical expression of the person you are within. If you want different results, then the identity you live from must also be renewed. You do not wait until your bank account is full to live like a prosperous person. It is because you live as a prosperous person even when there is no money yet, that money is allowed to flow in. Look at how you walk, how you speak, how you make decisions. These reveal the true identity you are operating from. A prosperous person does not act in haste, does not speak from anxiety, does not decide from fear of loss. They are present with clarity. They place value on themselves. They are not driven by immediate needs. Because of this, every action they take carries weight, precision, and aligns with the natural flow. What about you? If you are constantly overworking, always saying it is not enough, turning down opportunities out of fear of being wrong, you are locking yourself into the identity of someone who is always lacking. Reality is not forcing you to be poor. It is the repetition of your internal state that keeps you from crossing the invisible threshold. There's a simple principle that few are willing to admit. You cannot attract anything that exceeds the identity you live from. If you do not see yourself as valuable, you will not allow yourself to receive. If you do not believe you are worthy, you will reject every open door. And if you act to hide your fear, everything you do will carry the energy of that fear. The universe does not respond to your language. It responds to your frequency. It does not care what you want. It reflects exactly who you are. That is why the first thing you need to change is not your goals, but your state of being. You must live as someone who already has, not by spending recklessly or showing off, but by choosing actions that reflect inner abundance. A person with inner strength does not rush. A person with trust does not strain. A person who knows who they are does not need to prove it. And that consistency creates an internal atmosphere where opportunities naturally arise. You cannot use action to compensate for the absence of identity. You cannot use discipline to cover up insecurity. And you certainly cannot use effort to replace clarity. This game only flips when you dare to look directly at yourself and ask, where am I acting from? Is it from a sense of not enough? Or from the deep knowing that I already carry all I need within me? If the answer is not enough, then every plan is just an attempt to reclaim what you believe is missing. But if the answer is, I am already enough, then every action becomes creative, joyful, and empowered without needing external approval. True prosperity begins with how you get out of bed each morning. It shows in how you speak to yourself in the mirror, in how you respond to the unexpected. If you can stay calm, if you do not avoid, if you do not shrink each time failure knocks, then you are already prosperous even if your bank balance has not caught up. And if you hold that frequency long enough, the world has no choice but to reorganize and mirror you with precision. Action is just the shadow. Identity is the light. When the light shifts, the shadow follows. So stop asking what you should do to get money. Start asking how to live like someone. Money naturally flows too. This is not a game of strategy, it is a game of presence. And this game you have been in for a long time. Now is simply the moment you realize that you are the one who sets the rules. Your vibrational identity shapes your financial reality. It is not your circumstances, not your opportunities, not the market, but the identity you carry in vibration that defines the entire financial picture you are living right now. Every person carries an invisible but precise signal, continuously broadcasting into their environment. That signal is not in the words you speak, but in the deepest layer of your presence. You do not need to shout, "I want to be rich," because the vibration you emit is already a declaration. The universe does not respond to the language you use. It mirrors the frequency you live in. You may speak powerful words about abundance, but if inside there is doubt, distrust, and a fearful identity, then you are still radiating the essence of scarcity. No matter how carefully you present yourself on the outside, money does not care who you are on social media. It does not care how many personal development courses you have taken, or how many financial books you have read. Money only flows where there is alignment with its true nature. Money is clear energy, unaffected by personal emotions. It moves toward clarity. It gathers where there is no internal resistance. It shows up where there is no mask of vibration. That is why some people say very little, live very simply, yet their finances are consistently stable. Because within them, there is harmony, no inner conflict, no struggle. That is the purity of identity that money recognizes. Look at the identity you are living, not through your resume, not through your job title, but through what you truly believe when no one is watching. Do you truly believe you deserve to live in abundance? Do you truly believe money can come easily, without sacrifice? Or do you still secretly believe that to be wealthy, you must betray yourself? That to be abundant, you must give up your freedom? That to rise, you must suffer somewhere else? These beliefs are programming your vibration every day, and when that vibration is broadcasted, money cannot help but respond with a matching reality. Identity is not formed by declarations. It is formed by the repetition of emotion and behavior in the unconscious. How you live each day, how you respond to unexpected bills, what you decide when faced with trade-offs, these are the mirrors that reflect the identity you are truly living. And what you emit, whether consciously or not, is shaping the entire financial system around you. If you want to change your financial situation externally, you must begin by changing the voice within. This is the power of voice within, not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. Each time you return to that inner space where you no longer perform, no longer strain, no longer seek approval, you step into your original frequency. From there, you no longer command money. Money finds its way to you. Not because you begged, but because you broadcast the correct code. That is silent attraction. That is clarity without explanation. And that is the starting point of any true financial reset. People often ask how to get money quickly. But the right question is, how can I live as someone money does not avoid? That is not a question of strategy. It is a question of identity. When you live as someone constantly lacking, always afraid, always trying to control, money senses you as an unsafe environment, and it withdraws. Not to punish, but to protect its own energetic structure. But when you live as an open field, full of trust, awareness, and responsibility, money returns. Because it knows that here, it will not be imprisoned, not be manipulated, not be bound by fear. Money does not come to heal your emptiness. It only amplifies what is already present. If you are in chaos, more money will create more chaos. If you are at peace, money will expand that peace. If you are afraid of losing, money will generate situations to confirm your fear. And if you are radiating gratitude and fullness, money becomes secondary, a visible expression of inner sufficiency. Once you understand this, you no longer chase money. You simply recalibrate your identity, and everything else will realign itself. Vibrational identity is not what you think of yourself when emotions are high. It is the quiet repetition each time you fall silent. It is the place you return to when no one is watching. It is the truth you never say out loud, but that shapes every choice you make. To change your reality, you do not need more effort. You only need honesty. Honesty to see who you truly are in silence. Honesty to admit that you have emitted signals that pushed money away, and from there, you begin to choose again. To choose again is not to force yourself. It is a conscious decision, a quiet decision, without noise or promises, strong enough to stop replaying the old identity, and to begin living as someone who is ready. Because in this reality, nothing comes from the outside. Everything is the result of a frequency that you are constantly broadcasting from within. If you are ready to recalibrate your identity, then you no longer need to chase money. You only need to become the space where money wants to reside. The rest, the universe will arrange. Because the true nature of prosperity does not lie in the amount of money you have, but in the quality of vibration you emit each day. Money does not come from doing more. It comes from being the right person. You can work 12 hours a day, rush from morning to night, fill your time with meetings, projects, and strategies, and still find yourself standing still financially. Because the issue has never been about how much you do. The issue has always been about the vibrational frequency of the one doing it. The universe does not respond to action alone. It responds to the consciousness behind the action. If you act from fear, you will create outcomes filled with anxiety. If you act from a state of doubt, you will constantly produce results that reinforce lack. And if you do more just to prove your worth, you are acting from a place that believes you have no worth to begin with. The result is a cycle that forces you to keep doing more just to avoid being left behind. Prosperity does not come to the busy. It comes to the clear. When you work nonstop and do not see the results you expect, it is not because you are lazy or not trying hard enough. It is because you are playing the wrong role. You are acting as someone who does not believe, who does not trust, who has not fully claimed their own identity. And the universe has no reason to send more to a place that is broadcasting lack. Money does not come because you are tired. It comes because you are the kind of person it can flow to. And that alignment is not measured by performance. but by the resonance between your actions and your inner truth. You might see someone who speaks little, does little, yet each action they take creates profound results. Because they do not act to fill a void, they act from a self that is already whole. They do not move from fear, but from vision. They do not choose to avoid discomfort. They choose to expand their capacity to receive. That is why their actions are sharp, weighty, magnetic. Meanwhile, a person who does much but always feels empty is still resisting themselves on the inside. And money cannot stay in a place where contradiction runs deep. Being the right person does not mean being the smartest, the most perfect, or the most knowledgeable. Being the right person means being internally aligned, consistent between thought and action, between belief and choice. That person does not need to prove anything, because their presence is the answer. They no longer chase opportunity, because they have become the space that attracts it. They do not need to speak loudly, because every step they take is already a silent declaration. And money, as a form of energy, is drawn only to where frequency is stable and clear. When you understand this, you stop trying to do more, to earn more. You begin to recalibrate yourself to become the right person. You stop working out of fear of lack and start working because you are clear on who you are. You stop asking how to make more money and start asking how to release more resistance. Because the truth is, if you are fully aligned with the state of prosperity, money has no choice but to show up. And you do not need to control its path. You only need to maintain the identity that money recognizes and gravitates toward. Doing the right thing in the wrong vibration still creates distorted results. But doing just a little in the right vibration opens doors you never imagined. Because the truth is, action is only the surface. The foundation is you. You cannot build a castle on sinking ground. You cannot hold money while secretly believing you do not deserve it. And you cannot create sustainability while acting as if you are trying to catch something outside yourself. Those who are truly prosperous do not live in urgency. They are selective. They slow down to observe. They are not swept up by the rhythm of the world. Because they understand that the internal state determines both the speed and the quality of all external outcomes, they do not act more. They act right. They do not react. They respond. And every choice they make, no matter how small, resonates with a clearly established frequency. That is how they move through the world, without noise, without force, yet leaving a lasting impact. If you are doing a lot but still see no results, stop and ask yourself, am I the right person for money to come to? The answer lies in how you see yourself each morning, in how you approach uncertainty, in how you make decisions when no one is watching. If you act only out of fear of being left behind, you are still living as someone who lacks. But if you act because you know who you are, then even a little effort will create entirely different results. Money does not ask you to do more. It only asks that you become the right person. When you are that person, you do not need to say much. You only need to be present. And that presence, if clear enough, stable enough, and strong enough, will cause everything to arrive on time. No rush, no force, no fear of loss. That is the moment you stop chasing money. And money, naturally, begins to move toward you. Subconscious programs that sabotage your prosperity. There is a silent force that governs your entire financial life far more powerfully than you may realize. It is not the economy, not the environment, and not even your level of skill. It is the old programming that continues to replay from deep within your subconscious. Lines of code written when you were too young to resist, yet powerful enough to shape the way you see money, the way you spend it, and whether or not you believe you are worthy of abundance. The subconscious does not argue with you. It only records and repeats. If at any point in your life you heard someone say that money is the root of all evil, or that money corrupts people, or that the rich are exploiters, those impressions will sink into your vibrational core and begin to control your behavior without your awareness. You may desire to be wealthy. You may work tirelessly day and night to increase your bank balance. But if deep within, you still believe that having money is somehow wrong, your subconscious will always find a way to make you lose it, misuse it, or be unable to hold on to it. This is not bad luck. It is the precise mechanics of energy, because you cannot hold on to something you unconsciously believe to be dangerous. And if your subconscious sees prosperity as a threat, then every action toward it will be blocked in one way or another. These destructive programs do not always appear obvious. They often show up in subtle habits: procrastinating on paying bills, feeling irrational anxiety when spending large amounts, feeling guilty when spending on yourself, or turning down opportunities because you believe you are not ready. These are not personality traits. They are the byproducts of unconscious belief systems you have unknowingly carried for years. And the irony is that most of these beliefs were passed down by the very people you loved most. Family, teachers, community. They did not mean to limit you. They only passed on what they had been taught. And this generation continues to program the next. But at some point, you must be the one to stop it, not by fighting the past, but by illuminating the present. Every time you feel afraid of money, pause and ask, whose fear is this really? Every time you reject an opportunity, ask yourself, where am I reacting from? When you feel guilty about spending, look directly at that emotion and ask, what part of me believes I am not worthy? This tracing process will lead you back to the core truth. There was never anything wrong with you. You have simply been living out an old script. And once you see that, you can begin to rewrite it, not by chanting affirmations, but by living differently, one choice at a time. Each small act, if performed from a new place of awareness, begins to dismantle the old foundation. When you choose to believe that money can come easily, you will start behaving like someone who lives in that ease. When you choose to believe that you are worthy, you will stop subtly punishing yourself. When you choose to believe that prosperity does not take away from your spirituality, you will stop dividing yourself between the spiritual and the practical. And that is where true rebirth begins. Old programs do not vanish overnight. They dissolve gradually as you keep choosing again. Each time a new awareness is anchored in action, an old piece of code is overwritten, and you do not need to recall every false belief you've ever held. You only need to observe the present and recognize where the patterns show up. Wherever you tend to overreact, there is programming. Wherever you delay repeatedly, there is resistance. Wherever you feel heaviness around money, that is the very place where healing must occur. We cannot control all circumstances, but we can absolutely take charge of the vibration we emit. And vibration is not created by willpower, but by the accumulated system of belief. So instead of trying to change financial outcomes on the outside, return within and dialogue with the beliefs that have silently been guiding you all along. When you bring clarity to the voices inside, you are no longer a victim of the subconscious. You become the one rewriting the very code of your life. And the miracle is, the moment a deep belief is truly changed, your entire financial reality must begin to shift accordingly. No forcing, no struggle, only a realignment of your internal frequency. Prosperity is not a reward for the most talented. It is the natural result for the one who has gained the most clarity within. When limiting beliefs no longer exist, money has no reason to withhold itself. When destructive programs are gone, action becomes light. And when you fully understand that you do not need to become someone else, only to remove what is not truly you, then and only then will you be ready to receive a new life, where money is simply the final expression of a self that has come into harmony. The healing technique for financial programming. Millionaire meditation and prosperity breathing. Every morning you wake up, your nervous system begins operating based on a pre-programmed map of beliefs. If that internal map is wired with scarcity, anxiety, and struggle, then your entire day will be shaped by the energy of someone trying to outrun the threat of loss. But if that map is grounded in abundance, peace, and clarity, you will move through the day as if everything you need is already present. The difference does not lie in what you do, but in the map you are walking on. And that map is nothing but the subconscious vibration programmed through emotion, imagery, and breath. This is why you cannot change your life through knowledge alone. You must re-experience yourself at the level of emotion, sensation, and breath. Millionaire meditation is not about sitting down and imagining you're wealthy. It's not some fantasy-based positive thinking exercise. It is a process of rewiring your nervous system, of restructuring your financial identity from the inside out, using visualization, synchronized emotion, and intentional breathing. In deep stillness, you are not merely dreaming of money. You are feeling the presence of prosperity as a living current within and around you. You don't need to speak a word. You simply allow your body and mind to align with the frequency of abundance. And when that happens, every financial block within the nervous system begins to dissolve without effort, without resistance, without explanation. This process begins by calming the mind. Place your hand over your heart, gently close your eyes, and take a slow, deep breath. The breath is the bridge between the conscious and the subconscious. Every intentional breath is a soft reminder to your nervous system that there is no threat, no need to react, no need to defend. In that moment, you are no longer someone chasing after money. You are an energy field radiating readiness to receive prosperity. Keep your breathing deep, steady, and light. Feel the air entering as a stream of light filling your chest. And as you exhale, imagine releasing every old belief tied to financial limitation. You're not trying to erase it. Just breathe and let it go. Next, visualize a version of yourself who is already financially free. How does that person walk? How do they breathe? How do they see the world? Step into that state with every sense you have. Don't just observe it like a movie. Live it as if it is you right now. The emotion you feel is the strongest signal you can send to your subconscious. And that emotion becomes the code that rewrites the deep layers within. If you do this daily, even for a few minutes, your nervous system will begin to accept abundance as your default state, not a rare exception. And when that shift happens, your outer world begins to change without needing to chase anything. This technique requires no special space, no hours of meditation. You can practice it in 5 quiet minutes each morning. You can use it before signing a contract, before making a phone call, before entering a stressful day. It is how you realign your inner frequency before taking action. And when action begins from an aligned frequency, the results will carry the precision of your intention. No more resistance, no more confusion, no more internal battles. Only the natural flow of one who has come into inner harmony. Remember, you do not meditate to beg for money. You meditate to dissolve the invisible resistances that keep money circling around you without ever landing. You do not breathe to control. You breathe to return. This is the power of voice within. Not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. When you reconnect with that state, you stop asking for money. You become the magnetic field that draws it. And that is the greatest transformation, from the seeker to the attractor. Breath and imagery are not psychological tricks. They are natural instruments of the universe handed to you at birth. But most of us have forgotten how to use them properly. We use breath to fight stress instead of soften it. We use imagination to magnify fear instead of build new realities. And we let the days slip by without realizing that just 5 minutes of frequency alignment each morning can redirect the entire course of our financial path. Begin today. No need for a grand overhaul. Just breathe with awareness, visualize with depth, and hold the emotion of abundance as if it is already you. The nervous system does not distinguish between real and imagined. It only records repetition. And if you are patient enough to repeat what is right, you will no longer need to chase anything. You will become the place where all that is right wants to return. From wanting money to receiving it, a transformation of energetic posture. Most people live in a constant state of lack, not because they don't have money, but because they are unknowingly emitting the frequency of pleading. Pleading is not an action, it is a vibrational posture. It comes from within, from the belief that you are not enough, that you need more, that you must do something in order to be granted. And that very vibration creates distance between you and what you are meant to have. In the realm of energy, there is no giving or withholding, only resonance or dissonance. When you vibrate at the frequency of lack, you cannot receive abundance, not because you are unworthy, but because you are out of sync. There is a quiet yet powerful shift that occurs when you stop wanting money and begin to live as if money is already flowing in. Not because you're being naive or overly optimistic, but because you've come to understand that prosperity is already present. The issue has never been with the supply, but with the transmitter. And the transmitter is you. Every belief you hold, every emotion you repeat, every way you respond to money sends a clear signal to the universe. If that signal is fear, control, or desperation, you are declaring that you are in lack and afraid to lose. But if the signal is ease, gratitude, and sufficiency, then you are broadcasting in alignment with the source itself. Receiving is not passive waiting. Receiving is the active creation of space for prosperity to enter. That space is your inner state of clarity, steadiness, and detachment from the questions of how or when. You do not need to know how the money will come. You only need to ensure that within you there is no resistance, and that certainty does not come from control, but from surrender. You do not need to chase after money. You need to become the place money wants to flow toward. And that place is not a person who desperately desires, but a person who is calmly ready to receive. Observe yourself closely. When you think about money, how does your body react? If your heartbeat quickens, your palms sweat, or your mind feels anxious, those are signs your nervous system still believes that prosperity is unsafe. And when the subconscious doesn't feel safe, it will block you from accessing opportunities no matter how capable you are. This is not your fault. It is the natural outcome of a system conditioned by fear. But you can reprogram it, not by trying harder, but by adjusting your energetic posture. That posture isn't about a straight back or a confident voice. It lies in the internal stance. What posture are you in when you enter a conversation with a client? What energy do you carry when you send a proposal? What emotional tone accompanies your talk about money and relationships? Everything emits a signal, and the signal never lies. You can write all the positive words you want, but if there is subtle anxiety within you, the other person will sense it. And that misalignment is what blocks the flow of energy. Money is energy. It moves toward spaces where there is no resistance, where things are natural, open, and flowing. Like a river, it avoids tension, avoids hoarding, and never rushes. To reach this state, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be honest. Be clear about what you are truly feeling. If you find yourself forcing strength, let it go. If you feel restless because a financial result hasn't arrived yet, sit down, breathe deeply, and return to your inner space. This is the power of voice within. Not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. When you return to that space, you are no longer doing things to get money. You are simply acting as a natural part of the flow. And action from that place carries an irresistible pull. You don't need to do more. You just need to act from the right transmitter. When you live from a posture of receiving, you'll notice the things you once begged for begin to arrive without effort. Doors that once stayed shut will begin to open. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You have stepped out of the vibration of scarcity and into the state of someone who knows they are already enough. From this space, money is no longer something you pursue. It becomes something that naturally finds you, because you have become the one who can hold it, use it, and share it without being consumed or bound by it. When you stop wanting money and begin receiving it, you are not only transforming your finances, you are transforming your very being, from someone who lives in anxiety to someone who lives in trust, from someone who tries to control to someone who is aligned. And when you become the place where money feels at peace, you no longer need to search outside. You simply walk in the right state, and everything aligned will find its way to you. The language of money. Every word you speak is a vibrational command. Not every word you speak is accidental. On the contrary, each sentence that leaves your mouth is a signal sent directly into the operational mechanism of your subconscious, forming a chain of vibrational resonance that directly influences how money enters or exits your life. Language is not just a tool of communication, it is a mold that shapes reality. And when you speak about money, you are actively shaping the relationship between yourself and the invisible resource the entire world relentlessly pursues. If you've ever said, "I don't have money, I can't afford that, I've been poor since childhood," or "money is only for the lucky," understand that these are not mere emotional outbursts. They are programming commands sent deep into your internal operating system. Each time you repeat a negative financial statement, you reinforce an identity of poverty that your subconscious is obligated to obey. It doesn't judge right or wrong, it simply follows. And you live in the result of what you unconsciously ordered into existence. Observe a wealthy person. It's not that they speak in flowery language, but their words carry a stable, positive charge. They don't dwell on scarcity. They speak of creation. They don't recount their poor past as a burden, but as a marker of growth. They don't obsess over the concept of money. They speak of responsibility, opportunity, and flow. Their language doesn't emit desperation, but presence, the presence of someone ready to receive. And that small difference in word choice creates a massive difference in how money flows. You don't need to pretend to be positive or force yourself to repeat empty mantras. What you need is awareness. Each time you're about to speak about money, pause for half a second and ask yourself, what am I commanding to appear in my life? If you truly want to change your financial reality, start by changing the language you use to talk about money, about yourself, and about your ability to receive. When you shift from saying, "I can't," to "I'm learning how," you move your vibration from stuck to open. When you shift from "I have no money" to "I'm prioritizing my resources wisely," you reclaim your inner authority instead of surrendering it to circumstance. Financial language is not found in the quotes you memorize. It's found in your unconscious reflexes each day, how you speak when someone invites you to dinner, how you respond when your child asks for allowance, how you describe an opportunity that comes your way. These details are not small because the subconscious doesn't recognize small. To it, every repeated word carries weight. And if you've been repeating a certain pattern of speech for 10 years, don't be surprised if your financial patterns keep repeating the same script no matter how many jobs you've tried. Start rewriting your personal dictionary. You don't need fancy words. Just choose expressions that are simple, yet free of resistance. Instead of saying, "I'm too poor to do that," say, "I'm currently focused on building a solid financial foundation." Instead of saying, "Money is hard to earn," say, "I'm learning how to make money work with me." Instead of saying, "I always fail at investing," say, "I'm learning valuable lessons for my next move." The way you speak doesn't just affect how others respond to you. It restructures how you feel about yourself. This is the power of voice within. Not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. That space is where you decide which language is allowed to exist in your inner world. And when that space becomes clean, honest, intentional, and free from resistance, your words begin to hold creative power. You are no longer speaking just to speak. You are building a new reality using your words as molds, into which financial energy can pour and shape your life as you intend. No one becomes rich by complaining. No one becomes poor from missing a single opportunity. But many people lose prosperity because they don't realize their words are continually reinforcing poverty in the subconscious. If you truly want wealth, don't focus only on income. Start with language. It's the simplest, most accessible, easiest thing to change, and it has the deepest impact. And it's always in your hands, every second, every moment. From today, become someone who speaks with power. You don't need to shout. You don't need to be formal. Just be honest and clear. Let every sentence you speak carry a deliberate vibration. And soon, you will find the world around you beginning to speak back to you in a different tongue, the language of alignment, of opportunity, and of irresistible prosperity. Stop postponing happiness. Joy must come before wealth. Have you ever told yourself, when I'm rich, I'll enjoy life more, I'll relax, I'll be more grateful? If you've ever thought that way, you're not alone. Most people live with an unspoken condition like that. Happiness is suspended on a branch of the future, and until it arrives, they allow themselves to stay tense, anxious, or muted. But that is not how life works. You do not wait for happiness to follow success. You must become happy first, so that success can find its way to you. In the field of energy, joy is not just an emotion. It is the signal that you are in alignment with your true nature. When you're joyful, you relax. When you're joyful, you trust. When you're joyful, you expand and receive. And it is that expansion that creates space for money, opportunities, and miracles to appear, not the other way around. When you postpone joy, you're broadcasting a signal that says you're not ready to receive, that conditions must change before you allow yourself to live in your own light. But the universe does not respond to promises. It responds only to your present state. Be honest with yourself. When was the last time you truly felt joy while thinking about money? Not the restless joy of anticipating a quick gain, but the quiet joy of knowing you're walking the right path, anchored in inner safety. If that feeling still seems distant, you may be in an unconscious zone of delay. That is the space where you set conditions for happiness, saying, I'll be happy if this job succeeds, if that investment brings profit, if someone recognizes me. And that unconscious condition, over time, becomes a mechanism of self-sabotage. It causes you to push away good things simply because you don't feel worthy of joy right now. Don't wait until your bank account reaches your desired number to allow yourself restful sleep. Start by choosing a clear and gentle emotional state in this very moment. Even if your finances are not perfect, you can still find a reason to be grateful, to feel, to breathe deeply, and to smile. The strange truth is, when you stop forcing joy to come from money, money begins to find its way to you naturally. Not because you were joyful enough to earn a reward, but because you stopped resisting the flow of life. And where there is alignment, there is prosperity. Some may ask, how can I be joyful when the bills are piling up? When family pressure weighs heavy? When the market is unstable? But remember, joy is not blind optimism. Joy is a decision to return to your center, where you are no longer swayed by appearances, where you consciously choose the vibration you want to live in. You don't need to ignore reality. You simply need to stop letting reality dictate your state. And when you become the one who regulates your inner atmosphere, you also become the one who reshapes your outer world. Ask yourself this: if today you allowed yourself to feel true joy, not for any outer reason, what would you do differently? Would you look at your loved ones with a softer gaze? Would you bring a new quality to how you show up at work? Would you see the future with greater clarity? If the answer is yes, then you've just proven a simple but profound truth. Joy does not require a condition. It only requires a choice. And you, the one hearing this now, how are you feeling in this moment? Is there a part of you that's quietly unfolding? Is something in your heart warming up? If so, thank you. Not just for being here, but for listening with true presence. The question is, are you ready to stop postponing happiness and choose joy starting today? Not because of money, but because you deserve to live in that state, and from that place, everything else will follow. This is not romantic philosophy. This is a principle of vibration. Happiness is not the reward. It is the conduit. Once you absorb this truth, you'll realize financial shifts don't come from doubling your workload, but from doubling your sense of aliveness. You don't have to struggle to change your circumstances. You only need to begin from a different state. A state of someone who understands that joy is the signal of a clear mind and an awakened soul. From this point forward, you will no longer be the one straining to succeed. You will be the one walking with calm assurance, as if everything you need is already on its way, because you've stopped waiting. You've stopped delaying. You've chosen to live fully, right now. And that is where the miracle begins. Decision is the most powerful spiritual act. A decision is not merely the product of rational thinking. It is the most powerful spiritual act a human being can perform in the physical world. Every time you make a true decision, a new doorway opens in your energetic frequency. A decision is not just about choosing an option. It is a declaration of a new identity, a new direction, and a new vibrational commitment. It does not happen on the surface of words, but in the deep place within you where you decisively cut ties with the past and activate a reality that has never been lived before. Many people think they are making decisions, but in truth, they are only hesitating between two fears. One is the fear of losing the familiar. The other is the fear of failing in the unknown. Within that inner tug of war, no vibration is strong enough to shift reality. Only when you release your old identity completely and step into the void where there is no evidence, no guarantee, no approval, does the decision truly register. And at that moment, your energy is entirely restructured. A person may work hard, meditate every morning, read hundreds of self-development books, but if they do not clearly decide what life they choose to live, every action merely revolves around the same old state. The universe does not respond to ambiguity. It only responds to clarity, and a decision is the signal of that clarity. It is the anchor point from which reality gets reprogrammed. When you truly decide to become prosperous, you don't need to shout it out or prove anything. But every micro choice in your life begins to change. You no longer spend like someone lacking, no longer speak like someone hoping for a miracle, no longer behave like someone waiting to be chosen. You begin to live on an upgraded operating system, and that consistency becomes a magnetic field for results. Without decision, there is no miracle. Without resolve, there is no formation. Most people are not poor because they lack skill or opportunity. They simply lack the inner strength to stop hesitating. They live with 30% desire and 70% doubt. They send mixed signals into the energetic field. I want to change, but I'm not sure. I want to be wealthy, but I keep the habits of poverty. I want peace, but I still cling to drama. In that lack of alignment, reality reflects back only confusion. Decision is the end of all that conflict. It is a proclamation. I know who I am, and from today, I will live accordingly. Not waiting for circumstances to change, but by changing how I think, feel, choose, and show up every single day. There is no ambiguity in a true decision. You don't say, I'll try. You say, I'm doing it. You don't think, let's see what happens. You think, I'm creating this. You no longer wait for someone to rescue you. You become the one who rises and initiates the wave of your own life. People who transform their lives do so not because they know more, but because they've chosen decisively. They step onto a new path as if there is no way back. And it is that totality, though terrifying at first, that becomes the foundation where their inner power awakens. They do not let their energy leak into backup plans. They pour it fully into the decision they have made. And from that anchor point, a new current begins to flow. A true decision changes who you are, not just in behavior, but in presence. When you truly decide to choose prosperity, you no longer speak like someone trying to prove anything. You are no longer influenced by others' opinions, because you've seen the path clearly in your mind. You become quiet, yet fierce. You no longer need to rush, because you know where you are going. This inner clarity is more powerful than any financial strategy, because it is the magnetic field that generates results. Sometimes the only thing keeping you from stepping into a higher life is not a lack of resources, but a lack of resolve to decide. You're standing between two worlds, the old one that feels safe but suffocating, and the new one that is wide open but untested. And you keep waiting for a sign, for certainty, for a miracle from outside. But what you really need is not more evidence, but the courage to say, I choose. All it takes is one true inner declaration, and everything begins to rearrange. New people appear. Doors you thought were closed begin to open. Intuition becomes clearer. Not because you control everything, but because you've chosen to become the creator. Decision is the beginning of a new reality. From that moment on, all streams of energy will flow toward the point where you planted your flag. And you will see you don't need to fight the old. You just need to choose the new with enough clarity. The rest, the universe will take care of. The vibrational code of money. Harmonic resonance. Money does not respond to begging. It responds to harmony. Just like a symphony, if you play the wrong note, no matter how hard you try, the melody will still sound discordant. In the unseen world, money is a vibrational code. It doesn't come because you suffer or urgently need it. It comes because you are in sync. This is what most people overlook. They chase techniques, strategies, and clever tactics, while the only thing that truly needs tuning is the harmony between their inner vibration and the frequency of abundance. Harmony cannot be faked. You can learn to speak positively, mimic the behaviors of successful people, but if deep within you there is still anxiety, fear, and doubt, then all you're doing is playing out of tune music. And money, like an intelligent entity, will simply pass you by because you are not playing the same melody. When you are afraid, you emit a distorted frequency. When you are anxious, you create noise. When you long for something from a place of lack, you become someone unable to tune into the right frequency. Harmony arises from stillness, not urgency. It comes from a space where you know you are on the right note and you play it with your full presence. No need to impress, just a natural alignment with the rhythm of truth. In that vibration, money does not need to be chased, it is drawn in. Not because you are better, but because you are more attuned. You cannot deceive vibration. The world may be fooled by appearances, but the energy field is not. It records the truth, not your words. It records your state, not your slogans. And if you want to change your financial life, you must begin by fine-tuning your inner music. Harmony begins the moment you stop resisting yourself. When you no longer see money as something out of reach, no longer feel guilt in receiving, no longer panic when spending, no longer feel confused when being given. When you stand still like an instrument finely tuned, you'll begin to hear the rhythm in silence, a space where you don't need to do much, only hold your frequency. This is the power of voice within. Not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. In that space, you begin to see clearly that every reaction you have toward money is a reflection of inner chords. Each time you doubt whether you deserve greater wealth, you play a wrong note. Each time you complain there are no opportunities, you sing off key. Each time you over-control, you tighten the strings until the instrument breaks. It is the subtlety in your vibration that creates flow. Not noise, not effort, but breathing in rhythm, living in frequency, becoming part of the universal symphony. It is time to stop asking how to get money and start asking what frequency you're transmitting. A harmonized individual doesn't need to do more because every action becomes resonant. One sentence, spoken from the right tone, carries more power than 1,000 off-key efforts. One decision made from harmony invites unexpected support from every direction. And the remarkable truth is, when you start living in this rhythm, money comes not as a reward, but as an inevitable result. Because you are in harmony, you are no longer waiting for the miracle, you have become a part of it. Wealth does not exist outside of you. It is a piece of music waiting for you to join in, not with force, but with willingness to harmonize. Each time you return, sit still, feel, and fine-tune, you become part of something greater. A reality not driven by fear, but activated by clarity. A stream where there are no complaints, only the deep breath of someone who has understood the principle. And from there, you no longer walk to chase money, you walk to hold your tone. Do not underestimate the act of adjusting a single thought, a single feeling, a single reaction. Each one is a note in the song of your life. Change just one chord, and the entire melody shifts. And when the music within you becomes harmonious, you'll see that money is no longer something to attain, but something that resonates, like the echo of a self in tune. Not noisy, not desperate, not insecure. Only the gentle resonance of truth being lived, being played, one beat at a time. The fruit-bearing tree. Nourish the roots, not the fake fruits. A fruit tree cannot bear real fruit if its roots are decaying. You can hang fake fruit on its branches, paint the leaves beautifully, even make the whole garden look lush for a moment. But nothing truly grows if the root is not healthy. And this is exactly how many people are treating their financial lives. They're hanging up fake fruit. They try to project the image of success, spend to prove something, invest out of fear of missing out, or chase wealth formulas like adding leaves to a withering tree. But deep down, they don't truly believe they deserve prosperity. Their vibrational roots are still choked by fear, guilt, doubt, and poverty programming from the past. And no matter how much they appear to have, their lives remain unstable, always requiring effort to maintain, always needing more fake fruit to hide what lies beneath. A tree does not strive to bear fruit. It simply needs to be nourished properly. Sunlight, water, soil, and time. Wealth is no different. It does not come from the surface, but from a vibrational identity nurtured daily. A person who truly transforms financially does not do so because they learned a new strategy, but because they began tending to their roots. They start clearing false beliefs. They stop to observe the hidden emotions that arise when thinking about money. They rewrite how their inner world responds when seeing others become wealthy. They decode childhood memories linked to lack, jealousy, fear, and shame. And they do not run from that shadowed space. They choose to stay, to look, and to heal. Because they understand, if that work is not done, everything above remains fake fruit, destined to fall eventually. You may think that working hard, increasing income, expanding your network will be enough to bring in money. But if within you there still lives a sense of unworthiness, or the belief that wealth requires sacrifice, then every effort you make is like pulling a tree from the ground and demanding it to bear fruit. A tree does not grow. By being pulled, it grows from nourishment at the roots. This is the power of voice within, not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. In that space, you begin to regenerate your roots. You stop focusing on the surface, and instead, listen to what your inner voice says about wealth. And if that voice still fears money, you'll know your tree is not yet grounded. Prosperity doesn't come because you do everything right on the outside, but because you've made peace with yourself on the inside. You begin to speak to money like an old friend, not as an enemy or savior. You stop begging for money to rescue you and start asking why you ever wanted to run away from it. You realize money doesn't define your worth. It simply reflects where you stand in your journey of inner harmony. And you stop the game of faking fruit, stop pretending to have it all together, and start cultivating what can truly grow. A tree doesn't need the crowd's approval to bloom. It simply stands, quietly, receiving sunlight, embracing the rain, rooting itself into the earth, and then one day, fruit appears. A person with a healthy inner foundation is the same. They are not loud, not performative, not in need of proving anything. They live by the principle of growth. They nurture their roots patiently, consistently, and trust the laws of nature. From there, wealth comes as a result, not as a reward. It arrives not because they're better than others, but because they're more aligned with who they were yesterday. One of the most common mistakes is trying to use advanced techniques to cover up a weak, energetic foundation. But just like a tree grafted with branches from multiple species, it cannot bear sustainable fruit without a clear, rooted trunk. And that trunk is you. Not the version of you trying to impress, but the one you dare to accept and nourish. Not the persona you perform for society, but the quiet being breathing inside you each day. If you don't return to your root, you will keep living with fake fruit hung up, then fallen again and again. Finance is not a race. It is a journey of reconnection. Stop chasing the branches. Start nourishing the roots. Return to the truth within, where you no longer need to prove, to force, or to impress, only to be present. When your roots are grounded in understanding and self-acceptance, you'll realize you don't need to strive to become wealthy. You already are the soil of prosperity, you just haven't been tended to properly. And from the moment you choose to nourish the roots instead of faking the fruit, your life will begin to bear true harvest, the fruit of inner abundance rising from within. Conclusion: you're not chasing money. You're returning to your true nature. You're not chasing money. You're returning to your true nature. What you're truly seeking is not a number in your bank account, nor the recognition of others. You're finding your way back to yourself. All that you call goals, achievements, financial plans, are merely masks for a deeper longing, to live fully as the complete being you already are. If money plays any role in this journey, it is only as a mirror. It shows you where you stand on your path home. It does not reward. It does not punish. It simply reflects precisely, neutrally, honestly. When you stray from your authentic self, money drifts away. When you return to truth, without demanding, money returns too naturally. You cannot pretend to be yourself. You cannot perform as a whole being while your inner world is fragmented, doubting, and running. Every time you act in a way that contradicts your inner truth, you break the connection with the flow of prosperity. But every time you choose honesty, every time you choose clarity over fear, presence over pretense, authenticity over approval, you are not just moving closer to money, you are coming home to your center. From that space, you no longer strive to get you synchronized to receive. You no longer chase luck. You embody a frequency that luck cannot resist. We have traveled together through many layers of this story, from the early misperceptions to the energetic nature of money, to releasing old programs and learning to rebuild the inner foundation through small actions, thoughts, and breaths. We've talked about living as someone who already has, rather than someone who lacks. About transforming from victim to creator. About pausing, listening, and healing. About joy, courageous decisions, and nurturing the root instead of pasting fake fruit. And now, as you arrive at this final chapter, perhaps you realize the financial journey is not an outward quest, it is an inward return. True prosperity doesn't arrive as a prize for the most effort, it echoes into the life of one who has lived in alignment with truth. It's a natural phenomenon, like water flowing to low ground, like a seed sprouting when light is enough. It cannot be rushed. It cannot be forced. It cannot be faked. But once you understand the principle, urgency dissolves. You begin to nourish each step with trust and clarity. You stop asking how fast results can come and start caring whether you're living in truth. What is my emotional response to money? Am I acting from fullness or from lack? Am I being honest with myself or wearing a mask to maintain appearances? And that is where transformation begins. Not dramatic, not mystical, just a return. One day you sit down and realize you no longer want to fight, no longer need to prove. You just want to be. And in that moment, the gate opens. Money is no longer something you must chase. It becomes the natural result of the wholeness you choose to live. No need to impress, no need for gimmicks, no need for validation. You simply know you're on the right path. You are returning. I know you're here, reading these final lines. And that means a voice inside you has been stirred. A quiet awakening has been heard. That, in itself, is the most precious place anyone can begin from. Thank you for walking this journey with me. A journey not just about money, but about real inner freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from old conditioning, freedom to live, love, and receive authentically. If there is one thing I hope you carry forward, it is the courage to never go back to who you were. Choose differently. Speak the truth you once hid. End the small compromises that hurt you daily. Begin to cultivate an identity that vibrates in alignment with the prosperity you desire. Because you don't need to go far, you only need to live right. And when you live right, everything else begins to align, not because you force it, but because you are in deep, coherent resonance. I hope you keep that flame alive through the hard days ahead, through the moments of doubt, through the times you want to quit. Remember why you began. And remember, every external result is just a mirror. Come back. Adjust within. Everything you need has always been there, waiting for you to return and live it. See you in the next videos, where we'll continue exploring deeper truths, more powerful, more liberating. Keep tending to your inner space, where your real voice is waiting to be heard. And always remember, this is the power of voice within. Not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to.